welcome, or should I say, welcome back. This is the Daily Pilgrim Podcast 2.0 with me, your host, Alex. And we are, I couldn't resist this, back in the cassock. Now, I started this podcast just over 2 years ago, and it's been off the air for about a year. So it was about a year in total that I did it last time, and there were 26 episodes. It was supposed to be every week, and unfortunately, for reasons I will now go into, I did sort of run out of things to say. You see, when I started the podcast, it was, if I'm honest, a bit of a catharsis. I had just gone through a separation that would lead to divorce, and my life was changing. It was a very, very difficult time. And I look back now and I think that my entire identity had changed. Now, I belong to various Facebook groups for divorced dads. Now, things are very different now. I'm in a lovely new relationship. Well, I say new relationship. It's been 4.5 years. And it's been a wonderful 4.5 years. But when I started the podcast the last time, I was still working out who I was. And I was still working out how I felt about everything that had been done to me. Whether or not it was, without blame or without fault on my part, it was difficult to say. I was processing who I was. And the journey that I took over that year and those 26 episodes, there was a lot of bumbling, if I'm honest, but it was a reflection of how I was feeling at the time. The emotions were high sometimes, and they were low at others. Now, I did learn something. Well, I learned several things. First of all, I learned that you can't make a perfect podcast that is completely BBC level grade if you are a bumbling middle-aged bloke recording from a cupboard under the stairs. Well, I mean, that is true. That is exactly who I am and what I'm doing. But I learnt from a friend that actually you can be too polished. And when you try and be too polished, you lose your own identity. You lose that personal element that is you. And I was also told that a lot of the time, it's that individuality that people like and people listen to. So I promise to make this as bumbling and as silly and as non-polished as possible. And if if things go like I imagine they will, I can assure you right now that you will not be disappointed. It will be 100% unpolished. No, I'm only joking. But what I did learn that in all seriousness. I also learned that, you can possibly hear the dogs. That's quite interesting because we have 3 little dogs. And when I started this last time, I was really, really worried. What if the dogs start barking? But this is real life. And the little doggies, they play a huge part in my life. They can be annoying little twonks sometimes, quite a bit of the time, in fact. But they are lovely. And just a few weeks ago, I actually said this on one of my YouTube videos. I saw this picture and it broke my heart. It was this picture of this dog being led down a corridor of basically like a prison. It looked like something out the Green Mile, of all these sort of barred cells where the dogs were. And this dog was being led on its final journey to be put to sleep. And the caption was, "But what if my family come tomorrow?" And it absolutely broke my heart when I saw that. And I wouldn't be without, our dogs anyway. But I looked at that and I thought, that is why I am not allowed to go to dog rescue centres, because I would come away with every last dog that they had. I wouldn't allow one to be put down. And Helen, my other half, whilst she would do exactly the same, if I'm honest, I was going to try and say, she'd she'd tell me off, but I don't think she would actually. I think she'd say, "You need to stop going because you know what's going to happen." She was actually barred from doing that as well for just that reason. I don't know why I'm whispering. She's going to be listening to this, isn't she? But yeah, we're both softies, massive softies when it comes to animals and children. But we try not to go to adopt too many animals these days, and also for very different reasons. Try not to bring home children either, because we have enough between us. Anyway, I digress. Why did I want to get back into the cassock and the podcasting after this time? Well, having been a member of various divorced dad Facebook groups for a while, and seeing that a lot of people are going through a similar thing than I did. Also, a number of sort of people on spiritual journeys as well that are in the same place now that I was in a few years ago. And I thought, I think that I should start this podcast again, and I should, sort of talk and explore about the various journeys that people are on, not just my own, but other people as well. Whether it be recovering from separation, divorce, whether it be trying to find your place, your meaning in this world, whether it be trying to find, what you feel about spirituality and religion. All of those things, that really did define for me what the Daily Pilgrim podcast was trying to be all about for me the first time round, my journey. And so that's what I'm going to try and do with this one. Now, this is a pilot episode, so it's a bit bumbly, and it's a little bit, this is the sort of thing that we're going to talk about and think about. So I am going to post this on my YouTube channel as well. I would really, really like people to comment and send me messages and what have you, and tell me what you want me to talk about. Now, those of you that have been following me on YouTube will know the sort of daft adventures that I've got up to and I've done and I've tried. Some of them, people have said, "Oh, that's really good. We'd like more of that." And there have been other times where people have gone, "No, don't do that again." So seriously, comments, please get in touch. Let's have a community here. Let's try and find some things to talk about. Now, I suppose the biggest one for me, which I'm going to sort of start with sort of for the rest of this pilot, is when I started this journey. It was quite a few years ago. It was about 2014, when I first got in front of a camera and started to record things. Now, I realise there's no camera here, but the whole point is when I started doing videoing and, the precursor to the podcast, if you like. And I made a few episodes, and it was basically me being daft in front of a camera, and nothing ever came of it. I had one of those little videos left, which I put up, which was a walk that I did in 2016, and that is available on my YouTube channel if you want to have a look. And you will see that I made various mistakes. One of them trying to film with a phone and not realising that you can't do half the footage in portrait and half of it in landscape and expect that it will work seamlessly. It doesn't, but particularly not with that editing software, which I didn't have. But I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And one of the things that I really learned is that every time I did a video or recording, it was the chance for me to sort of wander off with my own thoughts and think, well, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. How do I feel and how do I think about this? Now, I often do that off camera as well. I would describe myself as a very spiritual person and not a particularly religious one, which might surprise you for somebody that is ordained. But the honest truth is that for me, being spiritual is about trying to find that connection. It's about trying to find that mystery, whatever it happens to be. The connection to the divine, the beyond your understanding, and just trying to find your place and your meaning in the world and really assess how you think about things. Whereas, if you are trying to be religious, you are trying to follow a set pattern and way of doing things. Now, it might be that is right for you. It wasn't right for me, but it might be right for you. And it might also be that you get a huge amount of spirituality from that. However, for some people, they don't want to go to church. They don't want to be part of that system, and they still want to feel they can have some sort of connection with the divine, whatever that is. A lot of the time, I bumble around doing whatever I'm doing, and I do just that. I try and think, and I try and feel whatever this thing happens to be that, is in my mind, in my heart. And a lot of it always comes back to the fact that I wanted to feel some freedom from the pressures of the world, a little bit of detachment, if you like. Now, I know I've bumbled around this. I suppose what I'm really saying is I wanted to be free from the everyday. I wanted to be free to just sit on top of a mountain and look out over the view and think, yeah, this is pretty wonderful. Now, when I do my funerals, I try and create a picture for people, which I think sort of sums up that sort of image, really. And it goes something along the lines, something like this. It says that, we now move to uncharted waters and to that great unknown. And as we climb that highest mountain, we should stop and just look at the most breathtaking view that any of us will ever get the chance to see. And that, for me, I think is true of life as well as the beyond. So this little pilot podcast, whatever you want to call it, this is the starter for 10, if you have any idea what I'm talking about with that. If not, go and look up starter for 10. So that brings us to the end of this little offering, the Daily Pilgrim 2.0 back in the cassock. Hope you've enjoyed, I've certainly enjoyed coming back and talking drivel for 10, 12 minutes or whatever it's been. This was a pilot. This was just to get us back up there, really. The real journey, I think, starts again next week. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I'm interested in your thoughts. As I said, do please drop me a line. Emails or texts or Facebook Messenger. Send me a Facebook friend request if you want. Or even go over to dailypilgrim.com. All the instructions for joining are there, and the contact details and what have you. Check out the YouTube channel as well. There's quite a few videos on there now, about 147, I think. So, yes, it's doing well. As for this podcast, I'll be back with you next week in the cupboard under the stairs. And until then, good night.